A grieving daughter, Emily, nervously dialing the landlord's number. Her father, a longtime tenant, had passed away suddenly, and she wasn't sure what to do next. When the landlord, Mr. Pajan, picked up the phone, she braced herself for a complicated conversation. Instead, his voice was warm and understanding.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Emily. Don't worry. I'll help you through this from the rental's perspective.
A compassionate landlord understands that, beyond the legal formalities, this is a difficult and emotional time for the family. While Ontario's Residential Tenancies Act, RTA, provides clear guidelines on what happens to a rental unit when a tenant passes away, the human element is just as important. The process should be handled with care, patience, and respect for those mourning their loss.
In Ontario, the Residential Tenancies Act, RTA, outlines specific procedures for landlords and tenants when a tenant passes away. Understanding these regulations ensures that landlords handle such sensitive situations appropriately and legally. According to Section 91 of the RTA, if a sole tenant dies, the tenancy is deemed terminated 30 days after the tenant's death. This automatic termination applies only when there are no other tenants in the rental unit. This is 30 calendar days, not 30 days to the end of the next rental period. Note that this is not legal advice.
During this 30-day period, the landlord is responsible for preserving the tenant's belongings and must allow the executor or family members access to retrieve personal items. After this period, if the belongings remain unclaimed, the landlord may dispose of them as they see fit. During the interim 30 days, landlords must ensure the security and preservation of the deceased tenant's property. This involves safeguarding the unit against unauthorized access and potential theft. Family members or the executor of the tenant's estate should be granted reasonable access to the unit to manage and collect the tenant's possessions. Identifying the executor or next of kin is not always straightforward, especially if there is not a will or named executor. If in doubt, a landlord should seek legal advice.
It's essential for landlords to approach this process with sensitivity, recognizing the emotional challenges faced by the tenant's loved ones. Ontario. Regulation 516/06 addresses situations involving surviving spouses. If a tenant dies without providing a notice of termination and the rental unit was the principal residence of the tenant's spouse, the spouse is included in the definition of tenant. This means the surviving spouse assumes the rights and responsibilities of the tenancy. However, if the spouse chooses not to continue the tenancy, they must vacate the unit within 30 days of the tenant's death. This regulation ensures that surviving spouses are not abruptly displaced during such a difficult time.
If, after 30 days, the belongings of the deceased tenant have not been claimed, the landlord has the right to dispose of them. Should the landlord choose to sell the items, they can retain proceeds to cover any unpaid rent or expenses related to moving, storing, or selling the belongings. Any remaining funds should be directed to the tenant's estate. The tenant's estate is responsible for rent payments up to the point of tenancy termination. This means that rent is owed for the 30-day period following the tenant's death. Landlords should communicate with the executor or family members to settle any outstanding rent or related expenses. It's advisable to approach these discussions with compassion, acknowledging the grieving process while ensuring that financial matters are appropriately addressed.
The deceased tenant's family may desire to keep the unit longer than the 30 days in order to take care of possessions or allow other family members to attend to the unit. It is advisable to use caution here. If one of the tenant's family members takes up residency in the unit, the landlord may have inadvertently developed a landlord-tenant relationship and subsequently started a new tenancy. Prior to agreeing to an extended period of time, it is recommended the landlord seek legal advice.
Once the 30-day period has concluded and the unit has been vacated and cleared of the deceased tenant's belongings, landlords can proceed to prepare the unit for new tenants. This may involve cleaning, making necessary repairs, and ensuring the unit meets all health and safety standards. Given the sensitive nature of the previous tenant's passing, landlords should consider the timing and manner of advertising the unit to potential tenants. Navigating the aftermath of a tenant's death requires landlords to balance legal obligations with empathy and respect. Adhering to the guidelines set forth in Ontario's Residential Tenancies Act ensures that landlords manage such situations appropriately, safeguarding the rights of all parties involved and maintaining the integrity of the rental process. Follow this channel for more Ontario-specific rental content.